Hey guys, Jeremy here from menzagaming.net and welcome to part 2 of this list spotlight video for Terracon 2016. In part 2, we're going to be going through Adam Napier's list. So this is a kind of an interesting situation because Adam kind of had this big elaborate troll this year where he purported to be running a Stormsurge and Nurgle Demons kind of list, and then kind of at the last minute confessed that no, he wasn't running it. We'd all gone out and purchased our Grav Centurions. I went and dropped $400 or $500 on spamming Grav Centurions just to kill that Stormsurge, and then I had to take them back to the shop. Luckily, I hadn't opened them. Just kidding. But anyway, Adam did reveal that he's running his Gladius, his Space Marines. So let's have a look at his list. It's a very interesting list. So he's running Iron Hands. So he has Cataphracti Captain. So that's an Angels from the recent Angels of Death supplement with Gorgon's Chain and Power Fist. He's got a Chaplain with an Auspex Combi Melter. He's got 3 tactical squads with the Grav Cannons in Rhinos. Interestingly, taken Dozer Blades. Then he's got double Melter Gun tactical squads in Assault Cannon Razorbacks. And his sixth tactical squad has the Las Plies Razorback with no upgrades in the squad. He's got his 2 minimum kind of attack bikes with multi-melters for the fast slots. He does have an optional choice here with the command squad. He's given it 3 melters in a drop pod. 2 dreadnoughts, each with a multi-melter heavy flamer in drop pods. A Devastator squad with 2 grav cannons in a drop pod. And then his second Devastator squad has the three las cannons in a Las Plies Razorback. So far I'm counting 3 Rhinos, 2 Assault Cannon Razorbacks, and 2 Las Plies Razorbacks. So that's good because he is he's getting some kind of variation and versatility with his weapon options. Then for his auxiliary, this is his Scout 10th Company Task Force. So we can see that he's gone with 2 units of Scout bikes. So he has to take the cluster mines on them because they're part of that formation. And he's taken a locator beacon on one of the units. And then his 3rd unit is just a min unit of Scouts with bolters. We've got his comp distribution here. So he spent 10 comp, which is a reasonably high, kind of somewhat high expenditure. A lot of it's just in kind of like non-optional things, so to speak. He's got 11 free vehicles. There's 3 comp there. 40 vehicle points, 3 comp. It's worth noting both of these are right on the top end. They're maxed out. If you took a 12th free vehicle, it would go up to 4. And if you took any more vehicles, it would go up to 4 comp there as well. His non-standard deployments in at 2 comp. And then he's spending 2 comp for the Cataphracti Captain with Iron Hands Chapter Tactics. I think the normal Cataphracti Captain is only 1, but I believe the Iron Hands one was costed a little bit more because of the extra survivability it has. So what do we think of this list? I think the first couple of things that come into my mind as a stream of consciousness type thing is there's a lot of vehicles in this list. I mean, I know that Battle Company does generally have a lot of vehicles, but the Battle Companies I've seen played at tournaments using Community Comp kind of normally stop at about 8 free vehicles. We've seen Adam, he's up at 11, so he's gone the full next threshold. And we can see that there's just tons and tons of stuff. There's just so many things in this list. Even this kind of the focal points, so to speak, aren't even really focal points. Like I look at a command squad that kind of comes out at me as a unit that normally would be some sort of like not a Death Star, but kind of like a big kind of play. But this is a very mint command squad. It just has 3 melter guns. There's no storm shields. There's no apothecary, anything like that in there. And then his Devastator squad here with the grav cannons in a pod. This unit here is for those that aren't fully aware of the way these rules work. This is going to be the home of Adam's Cataphracti Captain because the Cataphracti Captain has Slow and Purposeful, which is relentless. It's kind of like it makes you relentless. You're not allowed to run and you're not allowed to fire Overwatch. That's how Slow and Purposeful works. But Slow and Purposeful confers to your unit. So that means that this Cataphracti Captain is going to confer Relentless, as well as those deficits I just mentioned, to any unit it joins. So if he does put it in this unit of Grav Devs, they will drop as relentless. They'll count as relentless. So they will get their 5 shots up to 24 inches rather than 3 shots up to 12. So that's kind of like a little play that he's making there. So he's going to be making this quite effective grav drop. People might look at that and kind of say, oh, it's only 2 grav cannons. Why didn't he take 4 grav cannons? I think there's a couple of reasons why he's chosen to do this. Firstly, for points. Secondly, that's 10 grav shots. It's probably most likely on the drop. He's going to pop the Devastator Doctrine. And it's worth noting that with the Signum, one of those grav cannons is going to be Ballistic Skill 5. He's going to get a lot of hits, and with the grav amps, he's going to get a lot of wounds. Against a lot of players, he will be handing them 10. He will have 10 shots, and he will hand them 10 wounds. And that is often enough to kill something like a Riptide. You don't really need more than that. And if he does, for example, shoot at a Riptide and only do 4 wounds to it, then he's got enough granular damage in his list to finish it off anyway. So he probably feels that he doesn't need the overkill of going to the 4 grav cannons. So the Cataphracta Captain's also has a lot of defensive abilities with the Gorgon's Chain. So it's got a 3-up invulnerable save, re-rolling 1s. He then has Feel No Pain 5-up, and it also has It Will Not Die. So it's a pretty defensively strong unit. So he can then absorb shots with that Cataphracta Captain as well. Chaplain with the Auspex Combi Melter is cool because it's got the option to join that squad if the squad needs some sort of cover reduction. If he's worried about something like 2-up cover saves, it could be something like I'm just trying to think what he might be thinking about. If he is shooting at, say, a Riptide, he wants to target a Riptide, and it's night fighting, and the Riptide is in ruins, so the Riptide would have a 3-up cover save. You will find that Adam will probably put this Chaplain in his grav drop to neg the cover save of the Riptide by 1. That's an example. But if he doesn't need that cover manipulation, he will put this Chaplain with the command squad for the 4th melter. The reason why that's good is because melters are kind of something that when you drop 3 or 4 melters on something, you really want the reliability of knowing that it's going to have an effect. So I personally find with the times that I've run melter drops, I think that 3 to 4 is the sweet number. And I personally think 4 is a lot sweeter than 3. Just to guarantee you those 2 or 3. Because if you're getting kind of 2 or 3 pens through and you roll 3 dice looking for an explode, this is before cover saves, obviously. You're likely to get a positive result when you hit that 3 to 4 melters. With 1 to 2 melters, you're not really getting much reliability. So I think he will kind of want to be putting that Chaplain in with his command squad. Then he's got the 3 grav cannons in Rhinos. They're going to want to, on turn 1, if he's playing kind of like a game where he's not kind of on the super back foot, where obviously they'll stay stationary and shoot. If he's playing a game where he needs to kind of meet in the middle with his opponent, they will probably move up and pop smoke on turn 1 or move in flat out on turn 1. So this is output that will not be occurring on turn 1. This is like a setup play. So these things will be setting up while these squads kind of go up and contribute with their assault cannons, the las plas as well. We've got the other las plas down here. The turn 1 output from this army is not huge because we're locked into 24-inch range with all the Razorbacks except for the las cannons on them. So he's putting out some like lonely las cannon shots potentially, on turn 1. He's got his triple las cannon alpha strike coming from backfield. The list is very predicated upon these dreadnoughts potentially coming down on turn 1, or at least one of them coming down with this Devastator squad. So this is kind of what you'll find is Adam's turn 1 kind of play. These squads will come down, generate first blood, or try to generate first blood, and along with the bikes, I feel, because the bikes are also mobile, go for the turn 1 pressure. So Adam's list is kind of based upon this kind of like wind up. He kind of jabs you in the face with this kind of the dev squad and the bikes, and then you kind of like you reel back and you try to counter the stuff that's just hit you, and then he will absolutely go to town with these squads once he's in range, and he can start really unleashing. So his list is scarier than it kind of looks necessarily just on paper. If you kind of just go through it, it's very kind of homogenous in a way, but it's actually very much of a 1-2 punch list. Don't get caught off guard if you verse it. The MVPs in this list are basically the Grav. I think you'll find that the Devastator squad with the Grav cannons and the tactical squad with the Grav cannons will carry the list's DPS output. There's not much more to say in terms of like the concept. Like the concept of the list is built clearly upon the fact that, as we discussed, he's got so many free vehicles. He's generating as many free points as he can get. He's got tons of OBSEC. He's got drop pods coming down that are OBSEC. Everything except for the scouts are OBSEC. So it's an incredibly... this list will win games just off its objective secured. I think his list could just like sacrifice a whole shooting phase. He could on turn 5 just say, you know what, I'm not going to shoot this turn. And he'll probably still win a lot of games because it's not about necessarily the damage output alone. It's about just the fact that he's controlling objectives. There's some optional choices that I think we should discuss just as whether or not they were optimal. So, for example, these 3 units are the optional choices. I personally don't know if you needed the 4th drop pod, because for those that, we know that with drop pod assault, you half round it up, come down turn 1, and then the rest come down from reserves. So I don't know if he needed 4 drop pods. I realize that he's taken 4 drop pods because he didn't want to go. He wanted to maximize out on free vehicles, but he knew that if he added another free vehicle in terms of a tank dedicated transport, it would have pushed him over an extra comp. So he just figured, I may as well take a 4th drop pod. And that's fine. The problem with the fact that he's done that though, is he spent points on this Dreadnought. Actually, if he didn't take the Dreadnought, I was trying to think of how it would work. No, because he couldn't get a free vehicle. Everything's taken a free vehicle that can take it. Yeah, so... because basically what I'm thinking is I would have liked to see this list, and I've thought about this for a little bit, and I think what I feel this list needs would benefit a lot would be an Inquisitor. The reason why I think an Inquisitor is really good in this list is because he's got these drop pods coming down turn 1. He really wants them to be accurate. Now, you can see that he's included a locator beacon in his scout bikes, which means that he can infiltrate those bikes and on turn 1 scout them 12 inches. So he can kind of like, especially if he's got first turn, he can basically move them into a position where he can then accurately drop his pods, which is pretty good. But it's also like it's a 3 unit model unit unit count model count unit that can be shot if he doesn't get first turn. Furthermore, some armies will deny these scout bikes. They'll have their own servo skulls, or they'll have their own infiltrators that will stop the scout bikes getting into a good position. I would have liked to see an Inquisitor with servo skulls. Would have played around other people's scout. It would have allowed him to lock out a lot of other people's scouting armies. It would have also added another body to this squad that's coming down with the grav cannons, just to make it a little bit more of a combat unit. Inquisitor and Terminator armor with the Thunderhammer is pretty good in combat. Could have really supported that Cataphractor Captain with the Power Fist. That's kind of what I would have liked to see. But that's only because it's more of a front-loaded unit, in the sense that the Dreadnoughts, if you want to assume, for the sake of this example, that the Devastator squad and the Command squad come down turn 1, then the Dreadnoughts are rolling for reserves from turn 2 onwards. There's a good chance that one of them will fail their reserve roll. They might not make, and they come down, and then they're looking for like potentially a turn 3 assault. If his opponent is running away, they might only get a turn 4 assault. It's a pretty kind of slow input to the game. Whereas I think an Inquisitor coming down on turn 1 with the Dev squad and grav cannons will be providing presence and output through potentially a side cannon, potentially a psyker upgrade from turn 1 onwards, and and to take that example even further, with servo skulls, it's providing an impact before the game even begins. So I would have liked to see an Inquisitor. I think the easiest drop would have been a Dreadnought, but you could also drop the Command Squad. I think either of those, if you look at them, they're basically the same cost. Either of these things is I guess, disposable. The reason why I would like to see a Dreadnought drop is just because if you have the Dreadnought, the Command Squad, and the Devastator Squad, you can pick which one's least effective on the turn one and just leave that off. Whereas if you drop the Command Squad, you're locked into bringing down a Dreadnought on turn one. So I kind of like that the Command Squad adds a little bit of kind of utility. But at the same time, I can totally understand that if we did, for example, drop a Dreadnought to make room for an Inquisitor, then we're losing an objective secure Dreadnought and an objective secure drop pod just for an IC. So while the Inquisitors cost, an Inquisitor with Terminator armor, I believe it's 87 points. So, and that's with the side cannon as well. So if you did spend that 87 points, you'd be floating a few points. I would have liked to see Adam also give these scout bikes grenade launchers. Grenade launchers are a strength 6 AP5 rapid fire weapon at 24 inches. They're pretty good. They give a bit of strength 6, which the list benefits from. He could have potentially dropped assault cannons, like one assault cannon for 20 points would have actually bought him 4 grenade launchers over these 2 squads. I personally think 4 grenade launchers is probably going to give you more output than a single assault cannon. So there are still ways, even if we just assume this configuration stays as it is, that he could have squeezed those grenade launchers onto the bikes. I think that would have been a pretty good play. I really like the Dozer Blades. I think a lot of players would look at that and kind of not know why, or not. They kind of know why, but they kind of question it. I think Adam's acknowledging that these are the linchpin of his army's DPS from turn 2 onwards. And he needs them to be able to go into cover. He needs to reliably be able to push them in positions where they're in an optimal location. And often that will be in cover or moving through cover to get to that location. He doesn't want to take that risk of getting them immobilized. It's devastating if they become immobilized. So I like the Dozer Blades. I think this list is just generally really good. One of the first kind of questions I had was, why didn't he go White Scars? Then I kind of felt that, and White Scars for scouting, obviously. But then I kind of realized that if he did go White Scars, then the Cataphracti captain would be Terracon, which means that then this Devastator squad with grav cannons isn't relentless anymore, so then he kind of drops that. And then the list just slowly, it just starts to morph into a totally different list. So I think that he is leaning on the power of grav in this list. And I think that grav is a very, very, very powerful tool. The times that grav is weak is often when the times that bolters will be really strong. So it's an interesting mix. And that's why that grav company, the grav battle company, is so powerful, because when you know it plugs the AP2 hole for battle company, and when your grav might be a little bit questionable, the bolter spam from the rest of the list will just be able to account and make up for the weakness of grav in the list. So yeah, just really good. So all in all, I think that just the highlight to me in this list is just the 11 free vehicles. I think that alone will push people over, will push people out of the game. So my advice for anybody versing Adam is, once again, don't get overwhelmed by the saturation. Just set yourself goals that are achievable. Don't kind of try to do too much, because you won't get. Remember, the whole army's got 6 up FNP as well. And it will not die in all the vehicles. So don't kind of put hull points over lots of vehicles. Just be methodical and try to overcome the mountain one step at a time. Like, you just take one step at a time and be very, very kind of modest about your achievements per turn. So thanks, Adam, for submitting your list. I think it's really good. I think you'll go really well with this, and good luck at Terracon, and hope we have a game. It would be good to play it. I think it would be a very very interesting and challenging game. So thanks, Adam, and then we're going to move over to part 3 now, where we're going to look at Scott's list. So stay tuned.